afternoon. I'm Darcy Backyard with Prairie Public's weekly web chats, and today is a quick chat with a few fall fun activities helping you ease into the October spirit. The weather is certainly there, at least here in Fargo today, so we will jump into a few resources. All of the resource links, both resource documents, are shared in the video description box. So feel free to click on one of those that makes sense for you. Everything that we're going to look at today, or almost every link that we're going to look at today, is from PBS Learning Media. So PBS Learning Media is a free site available for teachers. You can create an account, but you don't need to. And we'll do a little bit of navigating through Learning Media today as we go through the resources. So we're going to start in the kindergarten tip sheet. So this is the PBS Learning Media pre-K to 2 resources. First, note that this is a general resource guide that has resources for almost every subject for a teacher. So these are some of the best collections on PBS Learning Media. There's far more on Learning Media, but some of the easy choices in terms of just the best picks for things. So as you scroll through, you will see a whole bunch of additional resources. We're going to go all the way to the bottom and take a look at these 2 boxes labeled Halloween and Fall, and then games and activities. These all go together. And whether you teach kindergarten, 4th grade, 5th grade, 2nd grade, or anything else, we're going to start with 2 clips from the PBS Learning Media All About the Holidays collection. So we're going to hop into All About the Holidays. We're going to start with this video about the 4 seasons. The All About the Holidays collection is exactly what it sounds like. It's a collection of resources about all the holidays. So if you are interested in quick little videos that help give students a little bit of perspective about why we celebrate what we celebrate, these holiday collections are a nice, easy connection. So you can see here, there's a little description of the video. There are some standards that this would connect to, a few national standards. And then if you go into the video, it's all about the holidays. It's a minute and a half long.
Summer, fall, winter, the 4 seasons of the year. Well, why do we even have?
And it goes through why we have 4 seasons, which means it also talks about why some parts of the world don't have 4 seasons, or have seasons that they call things, they have different seasons, right? So not everyone has a summer. Not everyone has the same kind of seasons that we have here in the upper Midwest, but every place will have different seasons. So some places have a rainy season, and so they talk about that. I think it's an interesting way for kids just to think about how living in North Dakota might be different than living in other parts of the world, living by the equator. But a fun, short little video that might take you into an exploration of many different fall resources. So let's take a look at those. For those joining, I know we have a couple teachers who have just logged in. I'm in the kindergarten, the pre-K 2 tip sheet, all the way down at the bottom of the Word document. I want to show you as well this leaf game with Daniel Tiger. I was a Mr. Rogers child, so I'm a little fond of Daniel Tiger, even though I taught high school English. There's this lovely little video with Daniel Tiger talking about the different colors in the leaves. You can see on this video, the different videos in Learning Media will be a little bit different. There are some support materials. There's an activity as well as a teacher guide. These activities are about feeling special. And so the song that Daniel Tiger's dad is singing, the I like you just the way you are, that is the focus of the activity. So you can certainly use it for that. I also think that you could use this little video to start a leaf art project. So Daniel Tiger invites the students, the kids, to find leaves with him. He's going to make a leaf picture. They then pick out the different colors and he catches the leaves. So a little bit of group work where they can pick out the different colors. And Daniel collects his leaves and then he's ready to make a project. So while the focus of the activity on PBS Learning Media, like I said, is about feeling special, I think you could also use it as a fun little intro video if you were going to do some leaf art. And there's all kinds of different activities out there of how you can make your own leaves out of construction paper. So you could use some of the same colors as Daniel Tiger and make your own leaves. Or if you're in a place that you actually are lucky enough to have some leaves close to the playground or around the school, you could certainly go out and, like Daniel Tiger and his dad, go for a walk collecting different leaves and then bring them back to the classroom, and maybe you just make a classroom wreath on paper out of all of the leaves, or the kids make their own little picture. I'm sure you, as early childhood teachers and early elementary teachers, you have much better ideas than I do as far as art projects, but I thought this was a fun little video going in. Kim, since you are joining us, do you have anything that you are really hoping to find today? Anything that you're on the lookout for?
Nothing in particular. I just thought it seemed just pretty timely to learn about some just different ideas for fall. I know the students that I work with, they love the different seasons, and so I'm interested just in seeing what you have available.
That sounds fair to me. All right, so we'll continue with some of the fall things here first. There's this fun little video. I'm not familiar with this cartoon, but I find them very funny. They're these little peeps, Peep in the Big Wide World. And then this one is about weather factors. And it's a too windy of a day. And for me, I think that is one of the hallmarks of living in North Dakota, that it is a very windy place to live. So I thought this could be fun. Yes, it gets very windy in the summer as well, right? There are days where it's ridiculously windy, but obviously the focus of the video is about wind in the fall. Something about these reminds me of you. So the different animals have picked leaves that look like them, right? And then the wind comes up and makes it impossible for them to hold on to what they're doing. So again, I thought this could be a fun way to introduce different weather, to talk about fall weather, use one little video to talk about. And even that turtle ducking into his shell, I know that's not what the video is about, but if you watch the video a couple times with kiddos, you could certainly ask them to look for clues about how animal behavior changes as the weather changes. So you can go down, like I said, there are the support materials, and here there is an activity and some teaching tips. But if we click on the activity, they have a little weather investigator outdoor activity where you're using crayons and markers and you're kind of making a weather journal, and then you observe the weather and you talk about the temperature and you observe different aspects of the weather, and they gather their data. And so this is a nice little fall activity here. I know that those kiddos still bundle up and get outside even when it's quite cold. And you can see that there are quite a few of these different videos with Peep, the changing sky, the rainy, snowy day. So you could do a whole bunch of different little weather activities, or even set up a different weather stations where the students have to talk about what are some of the things they observe in these different seasons. What are the things that they like to do during the different seasons? I know for me, someone the other day was talking about, oh, it's a little sad that it's getting cold. And I said, no, it's not. Like, when it's cold, that means that we get to do fall bike rides and I don't get hot. And then it means it's going to snow. And even though I don't like it when it snows and it's super cold, I do really like cross-country skiing. And so I have different activities that I look forward to, including sitting in my house with a quilt and hot chocolate and a book. And so that is an activity that I particularly like doing on a cold day. So you could set up different weather stations and have the kids talk about the different, what they do differently in different types of weather, what animals do differently in different types of weather, right? That can lead you into hibernation, that can lead you into migration, all these different behaviors that animals exhibit, as well as just what it's like to live in North Dakota with the weather. So that's Peep and the big wide world weather factors. So again, that's just in this all the way down at the bottom of the K2 tip sheet, the windy weather. If you were going to do some stations, particularly for younger kiddos, there's this Abby Cadabby season spinner. You'll notice that this is now.
Season spinner. To start, press the green button. Hi there, I'm Stepbrother Rudy and I love it.
We're gonna skip her little intro.
Winter, spring, summer.
There's a little weather spinner. Each season has a different activity. If we go to the fall activity,
It's fall. Fall is a time when the weather gets cooler and we get to wear jackets and leaves change colors and fall off the trees. Help Abby pile up the leaves by collecting the
so you have to sort the leaves by color or by shape. So you can see now it's changed to shape. I collect the leaves. It's a pretty simple game.
into the pile.
And now I get to make Abby Cadabby
Ooh, a cartwheel.
go into the leaf pile.
Now,
And then it will play again. So it's a very simple game, the season spinner. But for those littler kids, another way for them to talk about shapes, for them to talk about the different seasons, if they play the different games, like if you did have stations set up, it's a nice little reminder. There's a similar game with Cat in the Hat that's a little bit more involved. And we'll see if it allows my Flash player here. It will load. The first step that at first I was a little confused by, but ended up being pretty cool. You draw your own leaf, and then throughout all of the activities, whatever leaf shape the kids have drawn, that leaf shape is part of all of the games and activities. So again, it's relatively simple, but this is a game where the Cat in the Hat asks you to sort the leaves by size, to sort the leaves by color, and like I said, you start by drawing your own leaf. It's taking a little bit of time to load, so we'll come back.
Leaving the Boo Roundup.
I like
Draw your leaf in one solid line.
So I can draw my leaf.
Now click on the start. It's working. Look at it go.
And then what I did think was cool, it's my leaf that is on the tree. I know that's pretty simple, but I thought that that was kind of fun. So you can do some animated leaf art, some catch and short, or continue drawing some leaves.
It's working. Click here to make pictures out of leaves. Or
Any questions about those games or ideas of how you might use those Kim, with any of your kids or at stations in the library?
I was just thinking about my library para is now this time of year just starting to have the special ed preschool students down to her library, and she was looking for some ideas, and I was thinking about some of those ones that you were playing, the little videos, how fun it would be for her to, you know, like play the video and then read a book that corresponds to it, and then maybe do a little, they're only there for maybe 15 minutes because their attention spans are shorter.
Yeah,
But
those little ones.
when they're that little, but I know they just love anything that's animated, or, you know, and then if you could tie it into a book, that would be kind of fun.
I like that idea of, and that it's just an easy tie over, right? Of connecting it to a book that makes so much sense.
Right.
And yeah, like a nice little video. And then certainly if you read a book, then we can ask the kids questions like, what things did you notice that were the same between the video and the book? And so, all right, what do we know now about fall because of our exploration? There are some other little activities and resources here. There's this PBS Kids Science app. So this you would have to have, it works with iPads. So you need to have a device to put it on. But there are some cool games in here. I've put a little video preview because you might want to see what the videos are before, or what the activities are before you necessarily download it. But it has a whole series of activities about ramps. So the kids do different games of looking at ramps and surfaces and what happens when you change the friction from dirt to brick to ice with a ball rolling. So there are a few fun little games like that. There's this whole series about shadows, and the kids can play some shadow puppet games. And then what we're looking at, they do have this series of little videos and games exploring the weather. So this would be an app-based system, like some games. And like I said, we're just watching a video of it right now so that you can get a sense. But this is a temperature predictor game. So you're predicting what is the temperature going to be like in each of these games. There is a little activity where you can change the thermometer. You can see Dot changing the thermometer, changing the weather, and just getting a sense of what happens in different environments with different weather. There's also a dressing for the weather activity. And so depending on the temperature, you are deciding, is this an appropriate outfit for this temperature or this temperature? So again, just very simple interactive games that talk about weather, that talk about the seasons. There is one more game here, if I can zoom ahead, that you get to dress the kids for certain weather. So that's the PBS Kids Science app. Again, that's right here. That's the science. There are other things in there, and there's like a little video preview in there. There's some pumpkin carving templates. So I also thought when I was looking at these, even if you didn't want to carve pumpkins, you could certainly use these as tracers for kids. Some of the characters, you know, their eyes are a bit exaggerated so that you could carve something out. But I think you could also use this for just a fun coloring sheet. You wouldn't have to use these for pumpkins, but that's in there. And then there's an article that I found on PBS Parents that just has some suggestions of some games to do in the fall, but also just some different activities that you might try instead of trick-or-treating for sugary candy. So that takes us well into Halloween. So again, back to this All About the Holidays collection. There is a nice little video about Halloween in here, but we're gonna look at this Halloween collection that has these different videos that have a Halloween theme to them, but you can see a wide range of topics. So you can talk about how things are kind of scary. I remember for me, Halloween was kind of scary as a kid. I didn't like people dressing up in masks. I didn't really like not knowing who people were. And I remember Halloween being kind of uncomfortable, and that could be why I'm still not a huge Halloween fan. But you can see that you could bring in some of these concepts into different areas. So you could talk about how some things are scary, but how do we deal with that? There's this cute little video of Peg plus Cat, one of my favorites, for counting. This is the Halloween holiday video that explains the history of Halloween. So again, there's some support activities there, some pretty basic, just little vocabs, but also there's some nice little discussion questions of what you would want to, what you might talk about this holiday. So this video is part of the All About the Holidays collection. But otherwise, there's this additional little Halloween collection that has collected different bits of PBS Kids programs that have to do with Halloween. Why I'm Scared of Spiders. The Salem Witch Trials. So you can see they progressively get older and older as you go through the resources. So that's the Halloween collection. I've also put down here, there are a couple dinosaur train, haunted roundhouse, and this spooky scavenger hunt on here. But that kind of wraps up some of the, most of the early learners for the pre-K to 2-year-olds. As you already saw, some of these resources cross grades. So now I'm switching over to the PBS Learning Media 3 through 5 resources sheet. That's also in the video description. Again, you'll see that I've collected in this sheet what I think are some of the best resources on PBS Learning Media. So all kinds of things for reading and social studies and math and some STEAM collections and science collections. So we're gonna go all the way down to the bottom to this Halloween and fall. And I have collected, hopefully here are some videos that are a little bit more targeted towards slightly older kids. But I also know that you can certainly take, because you're good teachers, you can certainly take a younger kid video and make it work for older kids and vice versa, right? I think a 4th grader could watch the PEEP video if the teacher, if you had an activity that worked well with it, and it would be a fun, silly little video that could kick something off. Conversely, even though this video says it's for grades 4 through 6 from Dragonfly TV, I think that a younger group of kids could certainly watch this video and benefit from it. But the kids on Dragonfly TV, if you remember this slightly older show, go through and they are looking at the changing colors. And then they go through the science. Why are plants changing colors at this time of the year? What is happening with photosynthesis and what is happening with the science that is causing these plants to change? So again, even though it's targeted for 4th through 6th grade, certainly I think this could work into station work or to some classroom work in younger grades. And there's the little description, and it throws up some benchmark standards for science. The next generation science standards are also there for you if you're wondering how this could connect to any curriculum. So that's the Dragonfly. So that's right here, all about leaves. We talked about this one already, all about the holidays, the 4 seasons. So again, you could connect this to what your students are doing. And going back here to this guy, we talked about the Halloween video. And now I get to share some things that I thought were really pretty cool. So if you are doing some reading in your classroom, there are a couple videos on here. There's a whole collection about Edgar Allan Poe. So you could certainly dive into reading different Poe poems and short stories. And you can see that there are these different little video clips. Again, it says 6th through 12th grades. Pre-screen them. They are a little bit scarier than I would probably show to a 2nd grader, but I don't know 2nd graders that well. So just see what you're comfortable with. But it goes through this little intro to the Telltale Heart. So I could see using this video as a little precursor, not telling the kids what it's about, right? And then going through, and these actors are reading parts of the story and they're talking about why it's such a compelling and such a frightening story. Again, there are some support materials here, some discussion questions that you can pull up. And this is particularly talking about how strong this story starts. So all kinds of ways to use this video, right? You could use it if you were reading the Telltale Heart. You could read the Telltale Heart, watch this video, and then have students craft their own story where they're paying close attention to some of the mechanics and mirroring some of the writing tricks that Poe engages for this story. And then just some general teaching tips here, and as well as some handouts that you can use if you're doing a close reading and you're doing this activity with students. So a great way, you can talk to them about diction and repetition, punctuation, and then have them do some writing where they're focusing on those writing elements. In that same collection, you'll see there's a little thing about the raven. There are a couple little videos in here that are, this excerpt is an actor reading part of the story. So it's not the whole thing, but you can get some little tastes. And it might be a fun little challenge, right? I like this video as an introduction for tone. I think tone is something that's very hard for students to always know what we mean. And what a fun way to use this actor who really is quite creepy. And you can see the text is up here on the screen. So what a fun way to do kind of a tone challenge. And how does it change the story if you're reading in a different tone? So here's a scary tone. Who else can do a scary tone? But what would happen if we read Poe, but we read it in a very silly tone? So some different ways of bringing in some of the scary literature into the fall, but also teaching some of those tougher concepts. This collection knocked my socks off. It's called Zombies and Neuroscience. So it's the zombie apocalypse autopsies for educators. And it's based off of this book called The Zombie Autopsies. But it goes through, it has this whole series. It takes you step by step what you as a teacher would do if you wanted to do this activity. Again, it says grades 8 through 12. I think depending on how you did this, again, probably 5th grade might be the youngest, but you know your kiddos, and I do think that it's interesting enough just to share. And you might get some ideas from it. But the goal is for students to go through, you can see the 4 different lessons. And the first lesson is about neurons and neurotransmission, and then neurotransmitters, neurotransmission, and neuroanatomy. And so this takes kids through some of the science of zombies. And I thought that could be a pretty fun way to go through some fun, in-depth, tough anatomy, but in a fun, I would think, entertaining way. So it has your support materials, again here, some suggestions for teachers, and then you can see within the collection, there are a series of videos going down. So it has the different resources for each of those things. A little bit more advanced, but something to think about. And certainly you could bring the idea of zombies into other classrooms. I do also want to mention on learning media, one of the other reasons why I like it, if there was something that you were going to share, let's say that you did use this telltale heart video in class, you can share it on Google Classroom right by pushing this button. This would link to your Google Classroom. So if you are set up on Google Classroom and you want to set up stations, or you're doing some blended learning where the students have a set of instructions up at the beginning of the day, you could have this in your Google Classroom, and then the students they don't have to go to learning media. You can just automatically link it to that account. You can also certainly hit this share and assign, and this gives you additional options. You can set up a class in learning media if you wanted to, but the nice thing is it talks to your Google Classroom if you already have one, and you can just get an assignment link. You know, you can just get the link to the video. So if you don't have Google Classroom, my recommendation would be just to share these on whatever school classroom you are using. I also love this Remind app. I use this with my high schoolers because they do not check email. But I've also heard from people who teach elementary school that they use Remind very effectively with parents, because Remind is a text messaging system. And I like it because I was sending a text message, but it didn't come from my phone number. And so my students would receive text messages. They could message me questions, but it happened through this app. So I didn't have to give students or parents my cell phone number. I always did it where students and parents could opt in. I didn't require people to be on my Remind. But I also like it because you can preset your reminders. So you can share resources via it. I would send reminders to my students for all of our tests and quizzes or major due dates. And I could do that weeks ahead of time. I could put in the reminders for things. I could put in reminders for, remember, we're talking about weather, so I need you to bring a leaf from home, and I could send that reminder. So Remind talks to PBS Learning Media. So it's just an outside app that you can send pretty much anything you want, short text messages to people. But if I hit this button for Remind, and now I'm not logged into my Remind account, but maybe that will be, it doesn't remember me right now. It would just, when I'm logged into my account, it just automatically links the video. So now, what a cool thing. Let's say that we had watched this video about scary shadows in class. I could send the link to this video home to parents. So now I could send a quick little text message home to the kiddos' parents and say, today we talked about how shadows can be scary. Ask your child to share our strategies for what we do when we get scared. And it just adds a very simple way to send the learning home and take some of that learning that you're going to do in class, but to deepen it, and also just to let parents know what's going on. Here, there's also the pumpkin carving templates, some of those same Halloween activities. And a good friend of mine in Montana, Nikki, asked me to share this. I could not find something similar, but Kim, being a librarian, sorry to put you on the spot, but she might know. But my friend Nikki said her 7-year-old, 8-year-old loves this book series. They're based on haunted houses and haunted places in Montana. And so living in Montana, this 2nd grader loves reading about these ghost stories in haunted Montana. So just another reminder that another way you can get into the holiday spirit for some kids is to check out some of those books. I liked the, now I'm not going to remember the name of them. The Goosebumps books, as well as is it Fear Street? What are some of your favorite scary book series, Kim?
Okay, so I have to be honest. I am right on board with you when you say that Halloween is not your favorite season. It's not. Well, I didn't mind when I taught kindergarten and you're doing cute little Halloween things.
Sure.
But when you're talking like really scary stories and things like that, I still buy them for the library because the kids absolutely love them.
Okay.
You know, and I don't want to fill my library with things only I want to read. Like I need to be aware of that. So I do appreciate some of these activities because I'm not particularly like crazy about the holiday of Halloween, and it's more just going back to kind of the same thing. I felt uncomfortable with what you were saying. I felt uncomfortable with scary people walking around. You know what I mean? When I was little, so it's just it's not that I hate it. I just, it's not my favorite holiday, but I know the kids love it. I have a para who she kind of goes all out, and she found an activity on, or not an activity, but a display for the library in a magazine, and I can email that to you because it's really cute.
That'd be great.
But it's like witch's brew and like alligators. It's like bottles of stuff that looks like, like different kind of gory things, not too gross, but, and then we kind of do a display where we put some of our scary books in that, and then a little caption that, just says, I can't remember what she put on it because it's been a year now, but so maybe every year, every other year, she'll put that out and we'll do a little display, and the kids just absolutely love it. So I mean, I'm all for whatever gets them to read, but it's a real stretch for me.
It's a stretch for me. I have a hard time reading scary things because then I will, as an adult, I will still have nightmares if
that's where I'm at.
Scary.
And they pick the grossest stuff to read, or the scary stuff, or the books we get on. The book that I thought of when you were talking about Haunted Montana, there's a book called Haunted America. And we have it for, I believe that's the book we have at one of our schools. And there is a North Dakota, one of the things in there is North Dakota, and our custodian actually pointed it out to us because he likes scary stuff. And I cannot remember the place. There it is. I believe that's the book. I can't remember which town it was in, but there was a town in North Dakota that they featured a haunted. I think that's the right book. But so anyway, I don't know if there's one of Haunted North Dakota, but there is Haunted America. So
I also found the choose your own adventure books usually were a little bit scary because they're building to that tension, right? Like you come up and there's a door, and what are you going to do? And it's playing on a lot of that same kind of tension. And so as a writing teacher, as an English teacher, I like that idea of it, of using some of these scary stories to look at different techniques of writing. So I might not emphasize the Halloween part of something just because, and also to be respectful of some of those families or groups of kids who might not be allowed to celebrate Halloween, or for whom it might be a little bit more stressful. But I do like some of those activities of saying, all right, so we're going to look at some of these different stories, and we're going to look at these writing techniques and how, like I was saying with Poe, looking at different tone and how is he building tone, and how do you create suspense when you're working on something, because those things are very important and can really make a big difference in any kind of writing if you know how to build that tension and get your audience excited about things. So that's a little bit about PBS Learning Media, as well as some of these resources. There certainly are more videos and a lot more of the games and activities are available for the kindergarten through first, second grade crowd. For the older kids, there are just fewer games on PBS Learning Media, right? A lot of the focus area is on those getting kids ready for school. And so it's a lot of those basic skills games. But I do have the link here for the PBS Kids games in general. So these games you do play on a computer. And so this is just pbskids.org games, and I went to the all topics. So you can kind of explore them this way by different genre of game, of what you might be looking for. Under the nature games, I did find a couple other little fall activity kind of games. Now it's going to be slow loading, but that's okay. There we go. So this is where I found the leaf game. But there's this fun little nature art box where you get to draw with Nature Cat and his leaves. This was the Leafy LeFou Roundup was there. There's a flower garden. You can kind of get a sense just from glancing at, here's the season spinner again. You can get a sense glancing at them about what age level they're going to be for. But you can see if you were doing different seasons, you could find a few different things in here. And then just, you know, some feeling games, some coloring games, animals, Spanish games, problem solving. So feel free to check this out as well. So those are a few different resources. Hopefully you found something that would be of interest and worth sharing. And we will, you know, be back again soon sharing some additional resources.